Hello. Hey. Welcome to History Chats this afternoon. Yeah, I'm just checking this. Yeah, welcome to History Chats. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes with a little road trip into some of the unincorporated communities here in Marathon County, starting with Bevent. So that'd be a great. I mean, we'll get into that in just a bit. Just a couple things while we're checking make sure everything's working. Great. I guess I said that and then I trailed off. Hold on. Yeah, so we have some interesting programs coming up, I think, hopefully, that I wanted to just make a point of telling you about. So not this weekend, but the weekend after that, on the 16th of July, our next History Speaks is taking place. That'll be on the city of Wausau. The history, it was said of Wausau around 1899 that we were a typical lumber town, conscious of a brilliant future and alive within the bustle of the world. So Ben Clark here. I'm going to be the one putting all that together. Hopefully, it comes together by that point. It'll be an interesting history of Wausau. So, if you're interested in the history of Wausau, where this came from is part of the 150th anniversary of the city charter, which is something we're celebrating here in July in its entirety. So yeah, it's a good opportunity to learn about it. So hope you join us for that. That'll be, again, 2 o'clock on Saturday, July 16th. And I am hoping that I can still live stream that. If not, I'll try to record it and put it up later. But of course, it's always best if we have people in the audience and, get to be there and ask questions and all that fun stuff. Yeah. We're going to be continuing with history chats for the next week or a few weeks with our unincorporated places of Marathon County. We're going to be taking a little trip through a couple different of these places. So we're doing Bevent today. Next week will be Halder. So not sure where Halder is. There you go. There's a indicator. And then we'll be hitting Ponatoski and Knowlton over the course of the month. So yeah, that's what our plans are for this month. And yeah. All right, I got through that quicker than I thought I was going to. That's all right. Just make sure. So yeah, it's been a while since I've mentioned this, but of course we are doing this live. Oh, wrong thing. Cool. There we go. This doesn't matter. We can give the preview, except there'd be an echo here. Hold on. Yeah, so we're going to be getting started here. We'll probably get started in a minute here. If you have questions during the course of this, of course, don't hesitate to put it in the chat or comment section, and we'll see if we can get to that. But if not, that's all right too. We're just going to take a little trip and talk about some history. So I think everything seems to be working, and I think maybe this is a good time to just send it over to Gary, who's taking us through the story here. Let me just make sure the microphone. There we go. Sorry about that. Thanks for the comments. Catching that before we got too far into it. You were muted throughout all of that, so if you want to just take it back a little bit. Sorry about that.
So we can start off. Well, I'll start off again by thanking Ben for today and welcoming you to this little travelogue, little history spot on Bevent. As Ben was speaking, what's the connection between Halder, which we'll talk about next week, and Bevent this week? Well, it's Highway 153. So throughout Marathon County, there's always connections. We all are connected, even though we may be quite a few miles apart. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Bevent, but before I go further, I just want to mention that what's an unincorporated place? An unincorporated place in Marathon County in Wisconsin is mostly a community, some kind of a community at a crossroads. It is not organized as a village or as a city. Rockchild, Schofield, Wausau, all organized as a village or as a city. Towns and town governments, that 6x6 square that we see in Marathon County, are also organized. They're organized as a town with pretty much those 6x6 boundaries. So that's sort of what an unincorporated place is. It's a community that is sort of taken on, that it has its own history, that it has its own unique spot in the history of Marathon County. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about Bevent. In the early days, Bevent was in Pike Lake, which was a combination of two, what we now know as two towns in southeastern Marathon County. It's way down in the southeastern part of Marathon County. We'll talk a little bit about the geography of it as we go. So first of all, we'll talk about, this is Reed Township. Currently this is 27 range 9 east. This is the parameters of this town. At that time, it was called Pike Lake, mostly because of the Pike Lake residing in it. But if you look way down towards the bottom, you'll see a little community called Bevent. So Bevent sits at the bottom of what we now know as Reed Township, and so that line, that bottom line, sort of is the dividing line between what would come to be Reed and the town of Bevent. So here we have, in this little crossroads, Bevent Post Office. We have a town hall. We have a road coming through. This is about 1900. So you can sort of see the neighborhood of Bevent at that time. Schools, a lot of a lot of farming starting to go on, most likely also some land investment and some logging that is also going on around this time of 1900. But this is that 1900 glimpse at Bevent. To the south of what we would call Reed Town is the town of Bevent, Bass Lake. But if you look way at the top, on the top line, you see the little community of Bevent. So there it is. So what do we have on this side of the road? We have the Polish Catholic Church. We have a variety of other stores and little communities starting to develop. The farmers are in the farm. You can see the farmstead and the homestead starting very well to develop. So here we have this little community with a post office of Bevent. Around 1917, that large town of Pike Lake split into two separate towns. So now So now so we have Pike Lake separating and now being called the town of Reed. And it was, as noted in this article, the town was called Reed in honor of Judge A.H. Reed of Wausau. So now the organization, the community of this town was starting to become organized in the schoolhouse in section 13. So here we have the beginning of the town of Reed, both of which will have, claim this little community of Bevent as the home. So then a little bit later in that same year, what was left of Pike Lake was that the southern part of that. It was split off, and then it became forever known as the town of Bevent. So we have the community of Bevent at that intersection of Highway 153, as well as the town of Bevent. The community of Bevent, as being unincorporated, does not register as with regard to populations. All the populations in this territory is going to be by township. That's where the populations and all the statistics are. So if we see numbers with regard to an event, it's always referring to the town rather than this little community of Bevent. So just a couple of short little snippets with regard to the Bevent Post Office, established in 1891 and then discontinued in 1910. Mail service thus went to Hatley, and as you'll see in some of the addresses of the Bevent area, everything is now through the Hatley Post Office. And then also in Louis Marchetti's history of 1913, he is describing Bevent, this little community, as 2 stores carrying general merchandise. That's the sort of the story of little merchandise stores around the turn of the century, a creamery, a blacksmith shop, and a portable sawmill. So that's pretty much in 1900 how this little community was starting. But something happened. There's a larger story with Bevent. So I think this is really what we want to talk a little bit about today. So this is an ethnic settlement map of the upper parts of Wisconsin. And you'll see the green, that southeastern part of Marathon County, and the upper parts of Portage County as being heavily Polish in this green. So we'll talk also Polish in the northwestern parts of Marathon County. We're going to talk about that later in the month. But we're going to talk a little bit about that green section between Portage and Marathon County today. Because this is, I think, the real story of Bevent's great history in the history of Marathon County. Because what we see is the Polish Heritage Trail. I know this is kind of fuzzy, but this is from basically starting in Polonia now, northeast of Stevens Point in Portage County, the town of Sharon, the town of Hull, up in that area, and then marching up Highway J, including up into Highway Y, right up into Bevent. Sort of Polonia is the beginning part, and Bevent, and maybe even a little bit to the north, is the northern parts of this Polish Heritage Trail. And we can see why this is, because in addition to the Milwaukee area, there's a lot of Polish people in Portage County and in Marathon County. In fact, these 2 counties, in fact, carry perhaps the largest settlement of Polish people in the state of Wisconsin, and even some consider it in North America. This piece of land in between, including Portage as well as Marathon County. So this trail, this heritage trail, what I would call this heritage trail, starting down in Portage County, Ellis and Polonia, and then marching up to Bevent. And of course, if you go north on Y, you get into that Hatley area, and that is also quite heavily Polish. But we see this story starts in Polonia, in Ellis, the town of Sharon, the towns of Hull, because in the 1850s, early Polish settlers started to come into this part of Portage County. And with Father Dombrowski being one of the early priests in Portage County, he started the word went out. I think if there was a comparison to August Kickbush and his work with Germans in Marathon County, it was Father Dombrowski who was the great champion of Polish settlement in Portage and Marathon County. So he was in Polonia. You know, that's a whole story, the large churches that they had in Polonia. That's a large story. But as more Polish people started to come in, the land, of course, was starting to the land was becoming full, settled, more people coming in, and more people started to make their way north into the southern reaches of Marathon County. And the first stop in the 1880s would be Bevent, where the settlers started to come and farm. They found this land pretty accommodating. The sandy soil. They felt Polish settlers coming from the German parts of and that part of Eastern Europe felt very comfortable working the sandy soil, and thus they started to come. So they eventually would settle in Bevent and make this an early Catholic church in Bevent. And then, of course, this is a great history unto itself, because the town of Sharon in Portage County ranked #1 in the country in residents reporting some Polish blood in their families. And I think this was around 2000. Census figures show 1,978 people live in the township, and 63% reported some Polish. 6 other municipalities in Wisconsin finished in the top 10, including the town of Bevent. That would be that 6-mile square area in what we were talking about before in Marathon County. So again, a large amounts of Polish people coming into this part of Portage County and then eventually into Marathon County. And the Polish people set these sacred monuments, markers throughout this area, distinguishing this trail. This is a very visible, easy section of Marathon County going into Portage County that you can really see the evidence of the Polish settlers coming into Marathon. This is in Marathon County. And they were very diligent. Their Catholic faith meant a lot to them, and they were very diligent in setting these shrines really throughout southeastern Marathon County as well into Portage County. And this is, just so that you know, this is one of the rare features. This story of this Polish Heritage Trail coming into Marathon County is really a unique story unto itself, and I think one of the true ethnic stories in the history of Marathon County. I think this is just the great migration of people moving. You can almost see the sense of these people, of these Polish people coming into this part of Marathon County and making markers like this, these shrines, in testament to their faith. So I think that, so let's look at this is the town of Reed. I think in 2010, they still had 37% of the people in the town of Reed were claiming Polish ancestry. A little bit less for German, and then of course the other ethnic populations fell off. But again, 37 high degree of Polish settlers. But then it's covered up by and this would be in the town of Bevent, where you find 52% claiming a Polish heritage, and quite a bit of a drop to the Germans. So we see more of that Polish settlers in the town of Bevent, as well as, of course, into the little community of Bevent. So again, here in this little community of Bevent, we have St. Ladislav's Catholic Church, perhaps the anchor of this community. Started in the 1880s, and a strong. This sanctuary was built, I think, in the early 1900s. This is not the original, but when they built this addition to their their sanctuary, they kept this stained glass part of their original church as a testament, really, to their Polish heritage. This is St. Ladislaus today. A little bit of the original in the background, and then they had this addition built on the front piece. Again, this their front entry. I think this may have been their parsonage at one time, or I'm not sure if this was the sisters or if this was the parsonage. And then this was their school. Not, of course, they do not have a school to this day. But this is our little community. This is one of the streets in Bevent. Community that still is very active, very proud of their community, very attached, of course, to their church. A strong little community that still goes. It's on 153. So if you're going east on 153 from the airport, you'll eventually come to this little community of Bevent. And when you come, just don't fly by on 153, but stop and take a look at this little community. It's been here for quite a few years, decades, and a strong testament to the Polish ethnic heritage of Marathon County. And that's why I like to tell this story, because it is really a landmark community, in our county, testament to that ethnic heritage. This is a little overview, but I want one question always is lingering with regard to the story of Bevent, and maybe some people have insight. You'll notice on this map there's a little lane called Bevent Lane. And when I was in Bevent, I didn't go down far enough, but some folk are claiming that early on there was a mistake in transcribing the word Berent, B-E-R-E-N-T, and instead of seeing the R as an R, they saw the R as a V. And you could, I can imagine, interpret a certain R as a V, and thus we come up with Bevent. I'm not sure of the story, but it's a story that I think, especially now that I see a Berent Lane, I can see that there may be some commonality in how Bevent came to be called Bevent. Although I'm not finding any person called Bevent or anything like that that would lead me to think that it was called Bevent in early maps, early before the town of Bevent. It was Bevent on the maps a long time, so it came somehow to be called Bevent, but maybe a little mistake in transcribing the word Barent. We're not quite sure. So with that, here's a little bit of a story of Bevent. Really a cool little community, a testament, like I keep saying, a testament to the Polish immigration into Marathon County. And of course, the story, eventually, the Polish people, their story would move into Marathon, into the city of Wausau, congregating around St. Michael's Catholic Church in the city of Wausau. Polish would eventually have another community in the northwestern part of Marathon County, and we'll be talking about that in a couple weeks. But again, this is a little bit of a story of Bevent, how it came to be, and its importance in the history of Marathon County. So with that, I turn it back to Ben.
All right, yeah. So there you go, history of Bevent. Everything you wanted to know and probably didn't know you needed to know. Now we know about it. As Gary said, we're going to continue just to bring up here. Next week, we're going to go on to a little bit further west from Bevent into the town of, or the community of Holder. Yeah, another unincorporated place for us to learn about. Yeah. I think we'll call it there for the day. Thanks again for joining us. Hope to see you next time, and have a wonderful afternoon or whenever you're watching this, whatever time of day it is. We'll see you next.